I've been playing Century Age of Ashes, and I have thoughts. But before I get started, just a few hours before I release this video, Playwing announced in the Century official Discord about some updates to come, so I'm going to go ahead with this video, but adding some moments to reflect on them throughout. There is a lot of great stuff going on in this game. There is a lot that Playwing has done right for this game. The movement feels great, the animations for the dragons are masterfully crafted, the game is mostly balanced, and the game modes and environments are off to an exciting and beautiful start. However, there are some decisions in game design and player experience that I would have approached differently. Since I know personally how difficult it is to make a game, I'm going to put forward these suggestions with the caveat that not all of them are going to be viable solutions as I put them forward for Century. How easy or difficult it would be to implement some of these ideas are entirely dependent on what tools the dev team has made available for themselves, how the game has been put together with the design of their coding structures, and even what resources are available, such as how many servers they can run with their budget. I'm also approaching this from the perspective that we are aiming to please the free-to-play player, because pleasing players that are willing to pay you money is so much simpler from there. Considering that most players will be free-to-play, you want to encourage the largest community possible. If you drive away the free-to-play players, then the people who pay you money will have no one to show off to. And as a small disclaimer, I'm not going to say something obvious on this list like fix all the bugs, because of course they are going to fix any bugs. It just takes time. No developer in the world is fine with their game being buggy. Except maybe the people who made Goat Simulator. And the ones who made Skyrim. So before I get into it, I'll go over the foundations we are working with here and some of the great stuff they have done. Firstly, there are 3 major game modes, all of which have 2 teams of 6 players versing each other. There is the Team Slayer mode called Carnage, where you are only out for kills, the Capture the Flag type racing mode Gates of Fire, where you are trying to get the flag through all the gates before the opposing team, and the Spoils of War mode is what I find to be the most interesting, where you have to kill NPC dragons to collect their gold, and then deposit your earnings in your team's vault. It has a few power-ups to collect, like being able to fetch a key that locks the enemy team out from depositing gold, or the bomb that will spill most of the gold a vault is holding outside for anyone to pick up. There are also smaller game modes, a 3v3 version of Carnage called Skirmish, and as part of their first event, an 8-player free-for-all. These game modes are engaging and fun. Next, we have the 3 classes you can play as, with a 4th coming soon. The Marauder is the tankiest, with plenty of firepower. The Windguard grants shields and healing to allies, as well as deploys a poisonous gas trail. And the Phantom has the lowest health, but can turn invisible and drop very dangerous mines. These are almost perfectly balanced. With some skill, you can kick a lot of butt as any of these classes, especially when you work well with your team. On top of this, each class comes with its own unique, awesome-looking dragon. Now, looking more into the gameplay, the controls for both keyboard and mouse, or with a controller, all work well and feel great to play. The dragons look badass, and flying around destroying your enemies on one makes you a badass. I'm not the first person to say this, but I just can't help it. How was this game not made by another company years ago? The concept is just so natural and awesome that you'd think a bunch of different developers would have been scrambling over each other to get the best one out there before anyone else. Playwing has done a very good job of designing the controls and environments to feel great to fly around in. Lastly, looking at the free-to-play side of the story, by leveling up, opening the weekly chest, participating in events, and purchasing from the shop, you get to customize your dragons and riders with new skins and cosmetics. There is absolutely no pay-to-win here. A very nice feature is that free-to-play players get to, very slowly, earn the premium currency, gems, that they can then spend in the shop. This is very respectful and lets players get comfortable with the idea of spending money, if they ever feel inclined. So, now that we know all that good stuff, let's talk about what can be improved here, starting with more community engagement. A fantastic thing that Playwing is doing is having a team member stream on Twitch. This wonderfully opens the floor to communication between the devs and their players. You have someone on the team saying, "Hey, we hear your feedback." However, this kind of isn't enough. There are interviews with the devs that have revealed a little into what they plan to bring to the game in the future, such as a PvE, player versus environment mode, as well as the plan to have 2 special events per month. But what is also needed is a roadmap of future content. And here we are with that announcement. In just a few days, Playwing is going to be showing us that shiny visual roadmap. This is fantastic for the reasons I'm about to state. Century Age of Ashes is going to live or die on the community it brings in, and if they feel like they are in the dark about what is to come and have nothing to excitedly look forward to, or they don't feel like they are being listened to, they will leave. This is because, if I'm being honest, Age of Ashes is a little light on content. Once you have played the different game modes, should they start to feel a little stale? Only the friends you've made and the FOMO, fear of missing out on the current live events, are what keep you around. Another game with a similar origin story of starting out smaller but having great ambitions to grow over time is Sea of Thieves. I'm not comparing mechanics and gameplay here. For the moment, I'm just looking at how they communicated to their players. Firstly, they make great videos with a voice you will get rather familiar with over time, informing you of all the great stuff soon to come into the game. True enough, these days, no player knows what the next major content in Sea of Thieves will bring, but back when they first released, a lot of players voiced how barren the game was in terms of content. The first thing they did was create a video showing a roadmap of updates so players could feel like they had a lot of stuff to look forward to. Knowing somewhat about what is to come and roughly when to expect it is going to keep the game in people's minds over a longer period of time. Indeed, the upcoming roadmap they will show us tomorrow is going to do a lot of good here, provided that it gives some healthy amounts of details beyond the plans for new game modes and Dragon Riders. As I said earlier, not all the suggestions I have coming up are going to work perfectly for Playwing, and a solid part of that is the developers working full-time on the content they already have planned to make. Fortunately, as they state often in their online posts, they encourage their players to give feedback. Part of making a roadmap is planning for flexibility over time. If players react negatively or very positively towards parts of your plan, you adjust accordingly. Now, this aspect of flagging future content to the players is going to be an important step for a future suggestion I have, but before I can really dive into it, I have to show you 3 aspects of the game that need to be talked about. The first is cosmetics and self-expression. As the game is currently, it takes a very long time to get just one new customization for just one customization slot. And there are a fair amount of slots, which is further amplified by each class that divides your dragon species and their riders. A shield that goes for one rider is not one that goes for another. I have over 40 hours invested into this game, and as you can see, I don't have much to show for it. An example of this is the Windguard face customizations. You can only change her hair color with a specific customization that also changes her face paint. If there is a face paint or mask I really like but want black hair, tough luck. Let me choose which ones I want. I am a unique individual and I want my dragon and dragon rider to reflect that right out the gate. Right now, it is taking way too long to be able to express myself with what little customizations I can earn or even what is available to buy. Since you earn these customizations so slowly, it is a pretty disappointing feeling when you gain something new for a class you play the least often. To look at other games, let's bring back Sea of Thieves and pull Deep Rock Galactic into the mix. True enough, for both of these games, a brand new player has nothing new to wear. But play just one game, do one good session, and you've earned enough gold to buy some basic, decent-looking items to change your look. If you did really well, that one session might buy you a whole set. These games flood the player with options to make you really feel like your own unique dwarf or pirate. In these games, cosmetic packs can provide a whole themed set that can be applied to all the items you own. This is why I find such a lack of freedom of expression to be so surprising for Century Age of Ashes. The customization system is the biggest thing that gets the developers an income. That system had better be amazing. For someone to feel like a customization pack is worth it, they have to feel that what the game has to offer is worth it. Coming into the game completely fresh and not having a single way to even basically differentiate yourself from everyone else after a few hours is more discouraging than it is encouraging people to buy them. Since getting free gems is even slower than new items, most players are more likely to save up those gems for getting a new dragon egg than getting a new helmet for just one class. And I'll talk about the dragon obtaining mechanic later. Now, thankfully, there is the silver coins currency that allows you to occasionally buy things without spending gems. Though you always have the option to spend gems instead, you can burn through that money pretty quickly, and you might find yourself holding on to it longer than you should because what is available to buy in the shop changes all the time. Items go into a rotation instead of always being available, so you might kinda like something, but maybe something better will roll around? In order for players to feel more comfortable spending money on customizations for the different classes, they have to develop a taste for it and feel like they are getting a bargain when they see what is available in the shop. Being able to mix and match at the start, but also feel like they could look even cooler with that asset pack, would give them that taste for it. Right now, it is pretty clear that Playwing is working to satisfy the whale-type players, people who are willing to throw lots of money at this game. For a brief period, they had a customization pack that was priced at $104 Australian dollars, and there are plenty of other packs on there at high prices. This is something I disagree with. I believe that targeting almost exclusively to the people who pay you money is going to alienate 99% of your player base. And again, who is the 1% going to show off to if the rest of them leave? So what could I suggest here? Well, for starters, flood the market and make it all available at all times. Century already has a lot of different models for different armors to go on their dragons and riders. The quick and dirty solution is to offer lots of different color variations and patterns that are applied to them. The cheaper sets could be themed around lower class materials, lots of browns, greys, faded colors that look worn down and muddied, where the more expensive stuff offer brighter paints in more complex patterns, polished metals, gold and silver trimmings. You get the idea. Have more ways to earn silver and have more things you can buy with silver. Flip the focus from the money spenders to everyone, and then everyone is happy, which will bring in more everyone. Another idea is that for any particular customization, for there to be a few selectable alterations. Here we have a Marauder helmet. It could have 3 different horns to choose from, 5 different styles of what is painted on the face, with a few different colors for that paint available. There is a fundamental problem with this, however. In order to make sure no one is cheating, every player's profile and what they have in their inventory is saved on a server. If you want to remember what customizations are selected, you have to allocate space in memory for those details. Every single piece of new data they allow a player to personalize is more space in memory taken up. What was just one helmet slot before, becoming a helmet with different horns, paint patterns, and colors, is more than tripling that data. It might not be all that much extra space on a single profile, but if you multiply that by 1 million players, server upkeep could run a company bankrupt. It's not impossible for a system to hold all the information needed for that many players, but to do it right, you need to have some very clever programmers using very precise and planned out coding structures. Their game is already released. Updating people's profiles to a new save system could be very problematic. Again, I don't know what resources they have available, so maybe they could do it. Obviously, Playwing is going to give us plenty of customizations over time, but I do hope they shift their focus and make the adjustments so that all players get to enjoy the beautiful artwork of this game, even if they are a brand new player. Although I don't know if their roadmap later today will reveal any major changes to this system, they have at least mentioned that they will make improvements to the shop. I certainly hope it's towards something more friendly to casual players. Like I said, customizations are the biggest source of income for them, and when I look at what people have said about it in reviews and comments online, too many of them are not happy with it. Let's hope some great things are soon to come. Alrighty. Keeping in mind that self-expression in this game is mostly catered to the financially flaunt, let's move on to the second piece of the puzzle. Dragon taming. If you think getting customizations are slow, try getting dragon eggs. Basically just glorified skins for the actual dragon model. You go through the process of raising them from eggs, and these baby dragons are immensely adorable. However, getting a new one is like pulling teeth. The ways you get them are from either paying for them in the shop, leveling up your account 10 levels, which takes a bit of time, and you have a 10% chance of getting one from the weekly chest. provided you manage to get all 7 of the randomly difficult daily keys, which means you might never get one from there. The way you raise dragons into the rideable adults of awesomeness is to complete the missions they give you. These missions are so basically simple that you could complete one and move on to the next step in a single match. The time it takes to go from an egg to a new dragon skin could be as short as 4 online matches, and most often is that short. The combination of it taking a long time to get an egg and then quickly turning it into an adult leaves the egg hatchery empty for most of the time you are playing the game. I would flip this around if I could. Have eggs come in at a casual pace, but the process to raise them be something that feels well earned. Getting an epic or legendary egg is not something likely to feel well earned unless it came from the level up ladder, which means they come in short supply with a cap set to level 100. Getting a legendary egg from a chest would feel amazing, like winning the lottery, but that is not something everyone will get to experience. I would suggest having eggs take roughly a week to raise. So when it finally does become the glorious beast you will destroy your enemies with, it will be one you invested your emotions into. Of course, if you sat there for a day, you could grind experience away and get it much earlier, but I would have it so that only once a day that the baby dragon could get a boost to the amount of experience it gains. This means that once a week is roughly the rate you get new eggs, but with a bonus one you can get here and there. This gives the player a choice of which to pick from every once in a while. Of course, since I'm suggesting that you get eggs regularly, wouldn't you run out of new, more common dragons to get? Yes, you would. That is why I also suggest that if you happen to get a duplicate of something you already have, then instead of it being worthless because you already have one, perhaps you can sell it to the king for gems, the premium currency in the game. Every dragon you sell is working towards getting a legendary one from the shop, so even they can feel well earned too. A really nice byproduct of this is that by having spent a decent amount of time raising a dragon, by investing solid energy into it, you have a chance for the player to feel the most important emotion they can attach to that dragon: a bond with it. The simplest solution to implement this is to have the weekly chest always reward the player with a dragon egg. Of course, the more keys you get for it by the end of the week, the rarer the dragon you are rewarded. For those of you familiar with the game, you would understandably be thinking that I am suggesting that these eggs just have a dozen new missions attached to them. I'm not. I'm going to recommend an alternative way to gain your dragon experience, but I'm not there yet. I have just one more aspect of the game to cover before then. In their recent announcement, they mentioned that an upcoming event will have players earning dragon eggs. My prediction is that they will allow players to earn 1 egg for each class, 3 in total. If I'm right, which would align with feedback they have received from players, this is a far cry from what I am suggesting here. It's a nice step, but I think players would enjoy a system with a bit more meat they can bite into. With that in mind, my next topic is player goals and achievements. How many things can you name that are goals for the player to achieve in Age of Ashes? Things that players can work towards and feel a sense of accomplishment with. I can name a few, but they all come with a catch. The first is to unlock certain customizations or obtain certain dragons, but considering that these things are more effectively done by paying real-world money, it's hard to say if a free-to-play player will ever accomplish their dreams. The second goal could be to hit level 100 in the ladder system and unlock all those rewards. The problem there is that all players can achieve this purely by playing the game over time. It's not something that requires much intentional effort or even much skill from the player. It only takes time. The last thing is the ranked matches system. Fair enough, players can dream to be among the best dragon riders in the world, but 99.99% are not going to achieve this. Maybe instead, players will think, I'll aim to be among the top 1,000, 500, 200, top 50, and feel very good about it if they achieve it. But this is still just mostly playing the game as normal. For all of these concepts, there are no uniquely themed goals and rewards attached to unique styles of gameplay. To look back at our example games, Sea of Thieves with its wonderful open-world gameplay has different factions you can earn reputations with and unlock rewards. If that's not to your liking, you can play the Tall Tales that act like story modes. We could introduce factions into Century Age of Ashes, with their own levels and rewards, but this could be rather clumsy to implement. Century isn't open world, nor has much room for story modes. It has selectable game modes, so let's look at Deep Rock Galactic. Here we have a game that also has selectable game modes and not much story. It has 4 classes of characters, sounds familiar, that can each earn levels or promotions, and customizations are rewarded aplenty. You can also earn weapon modifications to mix things up a bit. Looking at Sentry, I have already pointed out that the level up ladder isn't enough, so maybe promotions is something Sentry can look into, as well as the lack of rewarded cosmetics. So what is left? Players need something they can work towards, goalposts they can aspire to, with solid, manageable steps to achieve them. So let's dive into this a little bit. In Deep Rock, you can do assignments that simply ask you to complete a chain of different mission types. Do them all, get those specific rewards. Sentry already has a similar system for their weekly chest rewards. They ask you to complete a mission per day. The more of them you do, the better rewards from the chest. Perhaps they could simply offer Kingdom Bounties, a list of mission chains that lead to different rewards. Players know exactly what rewards they are going for, customizations, experience boosts, silver, gems, and they can take their time to complete them. Some of the mission chains might refresh every week or month, while others are permanent goals to achieve. Perhaps if you do a completed series of missions, you get another bonus something on top. This empowers players to be able to go for the rewards that interest them, giving them those very important goalposts to achieve. Looking back at the reworked Dragon Egg system, this whole aspect to the game is why I suggested it. The most accessible system I can see that could be adjusted to give those goalposts is the thing that every player wants: more dragons. After all, if creating an engaging and unique styled gameplay is what draws people into your game, achievable long-term goals are what keep them around. Pausing here, allow me to quote directly from the Discord announcement regarding February updates. Live events will then come in bi-weekly frequency, and we have another surprise on the way regarding community events, so you can be sure there'll always be something to do in Century Age of Ashes. End quote. I greatly look forward to seeing what that surprise is. Maybe it's mission chains we can work on over time. But if not, so long as they are working towards a system that rewards the player's efforts with content they can approach at their own pace, I'll be happy. And this, my friends, leads us to the big one. So far, for the areas I have highlighted, customizations, dragon taming, and player goals, I have given small suggestions to these problems. These don't address the meat of the larger issue, but I think we can do better. I think we can have a system that hits all 3 problems in one go, and that is to redesign the LiveOps system. LiveOps, or live operations in video games, is any system that updates, changes, or improves the game without having to release a brand new version of it. Although this includes things like patching out bugs or rebalancing a skill tree, the aspects I want to focus on are things like season passes and limited time special events. In Deep Rock Galactic, they have the Rival Incursion season event with an unlockable tree of rewards and cosmetics. Sea of Thieves has their season pass, where almost every action you perform gains you points towards leveling through the system and earning rewards. In both of them, the amount of experience to go from level 1 to level 2 is the same amount as level 99 to 100. The rewards come in a steady flow, the momentum never slows down, and this concept should absolutely be mimicked in Century. In fact, to once again quote from the Discord post, a Dragon Pass, our very own take on the progression-based reward system that'll take the very best from what's out there, plus some fiery twists. This is fantastic. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is going to give players goals and incentives. I don't know if this will be anything close to what I'm going to suggest in a bit, but let's keep going and look at what they currently have. For Century, they have had the Frost and Fury event, where playing the free-for-all game mode works to unlock more rewards. The best thing about this system is that it is completely free. I'm looking at you, Halo Infinite. All players can unlock all rewards. Unfortunately, my compliments end there. Although events like this are most definitely goals to achieve for the player, if you really want those rewards but don't like the game mode that you have to play to get them, tough luck. But even if you enjoy the game mode, playing the same style of gameplay can get pretty tiresome after a while. The same issue is happening for the ranked matches system. There is only one game mode dedicated to it that can get pretty repetitive. At a glance, you could think that there are not a lot of goals to achieve for this game, and what you can go for has no flexibility for how you accomplish it. However, I don't believe this is true. Looking deeper, we can see classes, customizations, dragon eggs, missions, special events. There are goals here. They just need to be reframed. Here's what I think could be done. Make the act of raising dragons be the seasonal content. Every month, each Dragon Rider class gets an egg they can hatch and raise. You raise it by playing game modes as that class, with every action you perform during a round gaining your event dragon points of experience. You get a point every time you kill an enemy, collect 5 power-ups, dodge 8 fireballs, regenerate 10 ticks of stamina, fire 2 shots at a targeted enemy while diving down, 100 points of fire breath damage, etc. And what if more difficult actions gained you more points? Fly through multiple gates in a row in Gates of Fire, reach the maximum bounty level in Carnage, deposit 500 gold at once in Spoils of War, so on and so forth. You can accomplish these actions possibly multiple times per game. By having these challenges always in play and available, they incentivize a player to adjust their style of play on the fly. Additionally, I don't believe that working on these event dragons should interfere with the more common eggs you can collect like I suggested before. They too gain experience that all classes contribute to just by playing. With more than one egg being worked on at a time, players would feel very productive as they engage with the game's content, which is such an ideal state of mind for a free-to-play game. Combine this with the Kingdom Bounties idea earlier, and you have so many things for a player to work towards. Having multiple long-term achievements has players wanting to log in more often. Having a combination of timed special events and untimed to-do lists has a player never idle for long. Live Ops is an incentive structure that inspires players to set their own goals. If I was going to take a guess at what the Dragon Pass might be, it could be similar to Sea of Thieves with a series of rewards at a steady momentum, and along the way get experience, currencies, cosmetics, the works. They may have leveling through the system be how I suggested with points from actions you perform, like getting kills and dodging fireballs. The general theme of my suggestion is to put the player in the role of a dragon tamer and rider, while I suspect that Playwing is making content under the theme of dragon dogfighting. These two ideals have naturally different approaches, and it is up to Playwing which they think will yield the greatest player experience. Anyway, continuing on. But what if you missed out on a previous event dragon that you really like? No worries, here is a Kingdom Bounty mission chain that will reward you with that egg once you have completed this month's event and want more to do for that class. I want to take a moment to make a point here. FOMO is not a positive player experience. Fear of missing out will indeed have players coming back to your game, engaging in your content, but that doesn't mean they will be happy about it. Sometimes they can feel fatigue from your game, or life stuff gets in the way for a while, and that is okay. You should never punish them for that. If people had to step away for a while, you don't want them thinking, well, I missed out on some cool stuff. May as well miss out on more and play other games instead. I know this line of thought exists because I have done it. Give your players more reasons to come back, not the other way around. As for customizations, just like how they are now, by making progress in the event, cosmetics are rewarded along the way. We can keep taking pages from Deep Rock Galactic and have a menu tree that has players choosing their rewards. If going with the idea of one customization item having alternate versions to mix and match, then you have your branching paths right there. Being able to choose from the cosmetic branches that focus on the classes you play most is a wonderful incentive to keep playing. Having a live ops where there is more desirable stuff for all players at once puts the game in a very strong position for future content expansion. Now, whether you like the ideas I'm putting forward or not, I'm sure you're thinking, that's all cool, Damon, but how do I spend my money on all this desirable stuff? And I'm glad you asked. Other than the fact that there will always be customization packs available in the shop, if you purchase the $5 event booster pack, every point you gain during an event actually gains you 2 points. $10 gives you 3, and if you buy the $20 developer support pack, you get 5 points per deed accomplished and some bonus rewards. Everyone has heard the saying, time is money, and what these event packs achieve is saving the players time if they feel like playing less but want to earn more. However, there is one very important note I should mention about what I am proposing here that is quite the obstacle to overcome, and that is that the window of opportunity to build and implement this system is closing. The game is already released. Players who feel they have had their fill of the game's content have already come and gone. Players who enjoyed their time but found nothing more to hold their attention after a while. There are still plenty of people in the world that don't know the game exists who would enjoy it, but the more time goes on, the more of those people get cycled through the game. Also, the longer into the game's life that the current system is used, the harder set player expectations become with how things currently are. I have suggested a big change to how players obtain eggs and raise dragons. There will absolutely be backlash from players who put in a lot of work to get a dragon, only for a future update to make it so much easier. The hardest part about this is that the longer you leave it, the worse it gets. Obviously, they are about to show us that roadmap, about an hour after I publish this episode, and they have a seasonal system in production. They have taken all the important steps, made an announcement with a heads up for a new system. So why didn't I just throw away this entire video, other than sunken cost fallacy? Like I said before, the theme I am basing my design around is dragon taming instead of dragon dogfighting. Yes, this is a dogfighting styled game, but there is a method to my madness, one that I will get into in just a few minutes. For now, let's get back to that window of opportunity that is closing. So Damon, what would you do about this? So what would I do? If I had the higher-ups barge in and tell me that this is the new system we are changing to, how the heck would I pull it off? First, after working out the details with the team, I would announce to all the players of a new seasonal system to come in 6 months. I would give them details about what to generally expect in that system, how getting eggs will be reworked and so forth, but then I would show them a roadmap of what to look forward to on the way there. We could implement the Kingdom Bounties system on the way, as well as flood the players with new cosmetics. So cutting in here, knowing now that the roadmap has been released at the same time this video airs, what if the higher-ups barged in after the roadmap announcement demanding a change? Again, work details out with the team, then make a new announcement stating the adjustments to the roadmap, making sure that there will still be a steady flow of new content like maps, game modes, and classes. I do have to give Playwing the credit they are due. They really do look at the feedback they receive and make actionable efforts towards addressing those issues. Most importantly though, the first new thing they can all look forward to on this roadmap, and my last suggestion is interaction mechanics. This could be very simple mechanics to the very complex. The first thing that comes to mind is to let the player use their mouse or joystick pointer so that they can give their dragon pats on the head. There might be no rewards for doing this whatsoever, but something this simple really could go a long way to making the player feel that all-important bond I mentioned earlier. Dragons are beautiful, majestic, awe-inspiring beasts, and being able to pat one is every nerd's dream. For how it could be implemented, I made a virtual pet Grim Reaper game for Android that you could pat. It's not an amazing game, it was made in college, but the best thing about it was being able to interact with it. You could give it pats on the head, belly rubs, and even a high five. It worked by checking where the position of the player's finger was touching the screen and simply moving the head to look like it was leaning into it. Here is the code. Not much, right? If you're curious, I have code elsewhere that has the head moving to look position. This just adjusts that look position to a perpendicular direction. The only problem for Century Age of Ashes is how they implement this depends on how the devs have put their code and animations together in the first place. To work around this problem, if procedural animations is too much work, you can have animations ready for the dragon to go into upon the player holding the mouse over different parts. You hold it over their head, it lowers and looks happy. You hold it over the wings, and it looks up and starts wagging its tail like a dog. This is all obviously a bit more work, but it could make a lot of players really happy to be in your game. The ability to express affection towards your dragon purely for its own sake is a wonderful thing. In fact, I encourage Playwing to never give rewards for patting your dragon for fear of the over-justification effect. Players will want to do this just because it exists. Don't make them feel like they have to do it. Of course, with lots of time, I would love to see a whole lot of procedural animations used for interacting with your dragon, a whole new menu of feeding and caring for them. But this is not a virtual pet game. I wouldn't dare put any pressure on the devs to deliver on this desire. Just a good old pat the dragon button will do. And not to drag on about this, but I put up a poll in the Century subreddit asking, would you pat your dragon? And here were the results. Of course, this doesn't represent the view of the entire community, but scaling this up to all players, I can't imagine this would wildly swing in any new direction. About 92% of players said that they would at least use this feature, with roughly 80% actually saying that they really, really want it. Also, I think it's really commendable that Playwing has amassed a community where only 7% of their players don't possess a soul. One person made a comment about how Deep Rock Galactic lets you pet things for no reason, and the players love the developers for it. Playwing, you haven't made a player versus player arena match game. You've made a dragon riding game. That's the audience you have pulled in, and that's what you have to cater to. You have amassed players who want to love their dragons and achieve goals based around them, yet you have neither of these elements. This is a problem. A problem they will correct in due time, but this right here is the method to my earlier madness. The people who play this game are attracted to the idea of, wow, I get to ride a dragon? Let me check that out. As opposed to, wow, a new twist on the aerial combat genre? I can't wait to get in there. Sure, there might be a few people like that, but I don't think it's the majority. Hence why I themed my seasonal content towards the ideal of hatching eggs, instead of leveling up a ladder, which Playwing may end up designing, which may be the better system to go with. But what do I know? I'm not on the team. To call back to the start, I believe there's a lot of stuff that the devs have done right for this game. It's fun. I could go on with suggestions and talk about the ideas I have for cooperative player versus environment modes, but I think this has gone over time as it is, and I look forward to seeing what they come up with. Playwing, I truly wish you the best of luck. I'm greatly enjoying your game, and I hope you achieve amazing things with it. As for the people watching this video, thank you very much. Want to let people know your ideas for the game? Write it in the comments. I'd love to read them. Also, feel free to check out my other videos. They are mostly about Pokemon so far, but I hope to expand on that over time. With that in mind, subscribe to my channel, be wonderful to each other, and I'll see you next time.
That cute police just gotta learn it.